one of the very important lessons I've learned in life is that it's important for me to live in peace, not just with my wife and my children, but also to look after my own inner peace, and to look after my mental well-being, and to be able to sleep at night. And in order to maintain those three things, I had to make the hardest decision in my life, which was to walk away from my relationship with my parents, if I can even call it a relationship. And it wasn't just my parents, by the way. I've also got a sibling who follows me that I had to cut ties with, because he was starting to also exhibit the same narcissistic tendencies as my parents. I wasn't going to entertain having or being in a toxic relationship with a sibling. So I also decided to walk away from him. And one of the things that he did, actually, just for a bit more detail, is that he supported my dad when my dad was very abusive to me and my wife. And this is someone who says that he's a pastor. I don't even consider him to be a pastor, if I'm honest with you, because the Bible says, he that justifies the wicked and he who condemns the just, both are an abomination unto the Lord. And that's from Proverbs 17:15. Yeah, I'll just repeat that again. He who justifies the wicked and he who condemns the just, both are an abomination unto the Lord. So if my dad basically told me and my wife to go to hell, and my brother, who says he's a pastor, supported my dad. And not only did he support my dad on that occasion, he also supported my dad on previous occasions when my dad was interfering in my marriage and being abusive to me and my wife. So yeah, I decided to cut ties with that brother, and I don't have any regrets. And I don't have any regrets from cutting ties and disowning myself from the family. Cutting ties with my parents specifically and disowning myself from the family. I don't have any regrets. And when I look back now, I should have made that decision earlier, because there were many things that happened where, when I look back now, I should have actually walked away sooner. But perhaps I had to have my own personal experience and actually learn my own lessons, rather than, let's say, to cut ties with my dad because my dad was being abusive to my mom and all this. I had to have my own personal experience, so that now I'm making this video explaining that I've walked away from a relationship with my parents because I personally experienced very abusive behavior from my parents. And so no one can tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about. And there are those who say, oh, but these are your parents, this is still your dad, or this is your mom, and your mom gave birth to you. Yeah, if that's how you feel, then that's fine. That's your opinion. But at the end of the day, and I've said this to quite a few people now, that I was in the UK police for 12 years. I used to deal with domestic violence cases and domestic abuse cases almost on a daily basis. I actually got sick and tired of dealing with it. It was just too much. And domestic abuse actually is also defined as coercive and controlling behavior, and that's exactly how my parents behave. They are very controlling and coercive. So I cannot allow myself to be the victim of domestic abuse after I've spent 12 years in the police in the UK. I'm just not going to allow that. At the end of the day, we all have our decisions that we have to make. It's not up to you or anybody else to tell me that I should continue to have a relationship with my parents because it's your dad and because it's your mom and she gave birth to you. No one has got the right to abuse me, and no one has got the right to abuse another person. And no one owns me. No one has got the right to exercise ownership over me, because no one died for me except for Christ. Okay, Christ is the one who owns me. God, I belong to God by creation and by redemption. I belong to God. I don't belong to another person. I don't belong to my parents. My parents didn't die for me, so I actually don't owe my parents anything. Whatever they've done for me in the past was their duty, just like it's my duty to look after my own children. and I will never, God help me, I will never try and pass on the duty of providing for my own children. I'll never hand over my children to someone else to say they should look after them, unless I'm totally disabled. Then I might ask for help from someone. But my parents are alive and well, so it is their duty to look after their own children, not to demand that I should do things for my own siblings when they're still alive. And even now, with the way things are, even if my parents were to die, I am not taking responsibility for anyone. Except for my own wife and my children. That's my duty. So the hardest decision I've made in life was to walk away from my parents. And for those of you who are from Caucasian families, you might not understand this, but it's not a light thing for a black African man, especially being the firstborn as well, to walk away from his own family, because it's not really something that's really done that much, because it's almost like in African families you're supposed to put up with abuse from your parents, and also if you're the firstborn, you are seen as one day you're going to be the head of the family and you're going to lead the family, and if anyone needs help you're supposed to help them. But for me, I forsook all that for the sake of maintaining my own inner peace and living in peace with my wife, because what was starting to happen was that this, in quotes, relationship that I had with my parents was starting to affect my own relationship with my wife, and to the extent that at one point me and my wife almost split up, and relatives who even knew about the fact that my parents were abusing me and my wife didn't even help, because they actually were defending my parents and shielding my parents and supporting my parents, even though I made it clear that I had actually been verbally abused. I was told that me and my wife should go to hell. It's like all that doesn't matter. So that's what I'm trying to explain, that in African families, it's like parents can never do anything wrong, you're supposed to put up with them abusing you. But for me, based on the fact that I was in the police for 12 years in the UK, the fact that I'm a Christian first and a Christian only, and I'm not interested in any of this African culture nonsense, which I've addressed in some of my other videos. The fact that my parents don't own me, and the fact that no one has the right to abuse me, and one of the most important things is that I've developed principles which I stick by, and I do not cross the line on certain issues. For instance, I mean, the principles apply in different situations. So in this case specifically, yes, I have a principle that I do not allow anyone to abuse me or my wife or my children. Not only because I was a police officer and all this, but because I believe in right and wrong, and I don't believe anyone has got the right to abuse me. Okay, but I also wanted to say that principles apply in different situations. Like, for instance, I didn't take the poke during the scamdemic, and even now after the scamdemic, I have not taken it, and I will not take it because I believe in exercising bodily sovereignty. There's a certain line. There's a certain line in every situation. I draw the line in the sand, and I will say to myself, "Here and no further." Okay. So even before the during the scamdemic, before they said when they said the only solution was the poke, and then that the poke was going to be released in 10 months. This was in 2020. That at the end of 2020 there'll be a solution to this scamdemic. I already had drawn the line in the sand, and I'd said I'm not going to be taking the poison dart because that's just my principle, okay, based on what God has taught me and what I've learned through my own research. So in life, this is a lesson maybe for some of you who are watching. You need to have you need to draw the line in the sand in every situation. So even now with digital IDs coming and what's the other thing, CBDCs and social credit scores and the mark of the beast and everything, you need to draw in the line in the sand right now, so that when you come to the situation, you'll know whether you're going to go left or right. Basically, with me, when it comes to major life decisions, like whether I'm going to accept a digital ID or CBDCs, I've already drawn the line in the sand. I'm not taking part in that, and I'm not going to take the poison dart, because I've already refused it, and I know that one of the conditions in the future is that you have to take it in order for you to be able to buy and sell. But I'm already stating it right now. I am not crossing that line, and I will not allow anyone to abuse me mentally, and I won't allow myself to be a slave to someone spiritually. I do not believe that there's any denomination, or if you want to call it church, that can save me. Only God can save me, so I do not allow anyone to abuse me. No one can demand tithe from me. There are even some so-called churches out there that will demand more than 10% of tithe from their congregants, and there are some of these church members who actually go along with that. And there are many examples I can give of how Christians are being abused out there because they are not principled. They don't know when to say no. Everyone needs to learn to say no. It doesn't matter if it's your dad or your mom who is demanding things from you, demanding certain things from you that you don't want to do. You can say no, okay? Even if it's your spouse who is trying to abuse you and force you to do something that you don't want to do, you can say no. And for those who are kids, maybe who are listening to this and watching this, you can also say no to your parents, even if you are at home. If you believe that you are being abused and you're being coerced into doing things that you don't want to do, you can also say no. So yeah, so that was that's the hardest decision I've had to make in my life. Walking away from parents is not an easy thing, but I'll repeat it again: my inner peace, me having the ability to live in peace with my wife and my children without outside interference, and having the ability to sleep. In the past few months, I've actually been sleeping so well without taking any medication or anything. I actually go to sleep, let's say around 10 o'clock at night, and then the next thing when I open my eyes, it's already like, let's say, a few minutes before 5 o'clock. Normally I wake up quite early, around 5:30, but normally I'll be awake, but I'll stay in bed. But I'll be awake from, let's say, about 4:30 in the morning to about 4:45 in the morning. I'll already be awake, and the night goes so quick because I'm sleeping so well, because I made the decision to just walk away. Whereas if I'd continued to have a relationship with my parents, who knows what would be happening with my mental health right now. Maybe I would still be talking to my parents and always trying to acquiesce and always trying to appease and please my parents, but yet not being happy. But right now I'm so happy that I've walked away from that disgusting, abusive relationship with my parents, and it will never happen again. I'll never go back to having a relationship with them unless I know that there's a complete change. But how would I know that anyway if I'm not in a relationship with them? Especially with regards to my dad. My mom is an enabler. She was always there when I was being abused, including after I got married. But my dad is, out of the two of them, I'll say my dad is the worst one out of my parents. But what I wanted to say is that I gave my dad had so many chances, and even after he was verbally abusive to me and my wife, I still gave him another opportunity after we had a meeting. And in the meeting, he never apologized to me or my wife, even though in the past he said he was going to apologize to me and my wife for being abusive to me. But my dad didn't apologize to me. But basically went back, reverted to how he was before we had the meeting to discuss our relationship, where he was expecting that I was going to be giving him money as if I'm his what do you call it, investment, So when I eventually realized that all my dad wants from me is money, and he's not even interested in a relationship. All he wants is money, and that's not an exaggeration. I decided he was starting to raise his voice at me as well when I challenged him about this thing of expecting money from me. So I decided to walk away from him because as a grown man, I also deserve to be treated with respect. without being spoken to like I'm a dog, or without my wife being spoken to like she's a dog. Everybody deserves to be given respect. Respect is not a one-way street; it goes both ways. Okay, so parents have to treat their children, whether they're adults or minors, they still have to treat them with respect, and that's what I expect. But if I can't get that, then it's best for me to walk away. So that's the hardest decision I've had to make. And I would say for anyone going through similar experiences where you are hanging on to a relationship because it's my dad, or because it's my mom birthed me, you are going to suffer. And I'll suggest you walk away. It might be a hard decision, but it's better to walk away and be at peace with yourself and with your family if you have one, rather than to hang on to an abusive relationship. There's actually no relationship that's worth hanging on to if it's abusive. Okay. One of the telltale signs that you need to let go of a relationship is if you are putting in 60% or more effort into a relationship and someone else is putting in 40% or less. That relationship, that kind of relationship, if you can even call it a relationship, is not worth having. I suggest you let go of that and spend your time and money and resources more wisely, rather than spending it on someone who doesn't even appreciate it. So yeah, that's what I wanted to share about the hardest decision that I've made in my life. And some of you right now might be criticizing me for the decision that I've made, but you might even end up making the same decision yourselves, because that's how life tends to be. That sometimes we say things, or that I would never do that, I would never walk away from my parents, but the very words that you say sometimes actually come back to bite you in the backside. So don't be too quick to criticize. Everyone has their own personal experiences, and everyone has their own choices and personal decisions that they have to make in life. That's the decision that I've made, and I'm sharing this for those maybe who are at the crossroads as well, in abusive relationships. I'll suggest you walk away. Concentrate on your relationship with God, or your spouse if you have one, and your children. Concentrate on a relationship with people who are compassionate and Christ-like, rather than these narcissistic, abusive, so-called relatives and or friends as well. So that's what I wanted to share about that, and I'll see you on the next video.